To Volume West. Today, I have the honor of the youngest person to ever be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's a fun fact, a piece of trivia. Sitting with me is Josh Klinghoffer. Until you came along, Stevie Wonder had the record, and then you came around, you got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at age 32.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was a fun fact I just discovered, and you're here to talk about your new album released under the name Plural One. It came out about a month or two ago?
November 22nd.
So tell me about that, because I know you're going on tour with Pearl Jam soon, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I guess I just have a hard time sitting still, which you'll notice. And I'm looking at your Monster drink. I regret I dumped out half my coffee because I thought
we can get you a coffee at the break. Yeah, I kind of run on these things.
Yeah,
that's what you have to
maybe
do when you do
more.
these shows 5 days a week.
I'll
get you one if you want.
Well, I'll have more coffee if that's possible. I don't know.
Sounds
I
good.
dumped out half it.
You're a guy after my own heart.
I don't sit still very easily. So anytime the Chili Peppers would have downtime, I would do something. Usually, for years, it was play with a band that I had put together with some really good friends before joining the Chili Peppers, called Dot Hacker. And then this time around, this last a couple of years ago, when the Getaway tour was finished, I sort of waited for one of those guys to reach out and get the band together, and no one did. So I pivoted and made a record with some other people, mostly myself. But I had the great Jack Irons play some drums on it, and recorded at a studio up near where he and his family had moved, where Tom Waits made a few records.
Oh, wow. Eric Avery's on it too, right?
He is,
Creme
yeah.
de la creme of some 80s LA people, I mean.
Yeah. Eric is a dear friend who I think I'll see in an hour and a half.
You can come by. Next time. Bring it by next time.
Yeah, I have only a few people on Jack, Eric, and then all the Dot Hacker guys, apart from one who was having some health problems and couldn't make it in, but I ripped him off and played bass like he did, so he's basically on it.
Very cool. Well, I'm curious because obviously you mentioned the Chili Peppers, and I do want to speak about them, but I want to talk about some other bands you've played with. Correct me if I'm wrong, were you in Sparks for a minute?
Yeah.
You were in friggin' Sparks?
Yeah, brought into that mix by our mutual friend who we just spoke of, Steve McDonald.
Wow, so that's some LA royalty. You got the Mail brothers.
Yeah.
You got one of the McDonald brothers and yourself. When was that? How long ago was that?
That was 2006, I think.
How long were you playing with Sparks? Were you on any of the records, or were you just touring with them?
Just touring. It was the beginning of 2006. I had toured with with PJ Harvey in 2004.
Wow.
And that was a long tour. I mean, it at the time it felt long, but in hindsight it was only, it was less than a year. But spent the next year trying to put a band together home here in LA. And then when that wasn't really happening, Steve McDonald had called and said, "Hey, let's go on tour again together."
How did you know him?
We met in Beck's band because we did a tour.
You get around.
I know. I don't know how it happened. Yeah.
Beck's been on the show before.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, very cool.
Another LA guy.
What era did you play with Beck? Like what album?
2003. It was the last version of the Sea Change touring cycle.
Oh, so it wasn't the Garrow era where they had puppets on stage, like they had the puppet like eating like a dinner.
Before that.
And like Jason Faulkner's brother, like Ryan dancing.
Yes, before that. I saw that at some festival in Europe somewhere.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
This was Beck went out with the Flaming Lips, I think, right when that record came out. And then I think he did some duo shows with Smokey Hormel. Mm-hmm. And then he wanted to put a band back together. And I think the guys that had been playing with him, his classic band, were all sort of off doing other things, maybe. And he put together this, not speaking highly of myself, but he put a band together with Jay Belrose and Greg Kirsten and Steve McDonald.
Greg's been on the show with his for Burn the Beat, because they put out that like awesome and bizarre Van Halen cover record.
Right, yeah.
It's all connected.
And I mean, so that band and then myself, and we all got along really well, and Steve and I in particular. And then he called me because Sparks needed a second guitar player, so he said, "Come on, we'll have fun. You don't have to do much at second guitar, just kind of play rhythm." And so that was in the sort of right around now, late January, February of 2006.
But you would have to do a lot, because Sparks is much like Beck. Actually, the discography for Sparks is all over the map. You got to play glam rock, you got to play like weird new wave stuff, you got to play like operatic, almost like classical stuff.
True. And I love them, so it was no problem. It was just, I think he was selling it to me that, you basically in the background just play rhythm. You don't have to take any, leads or anything. So, I don't know. I don't know if I was playing hard to get or something, but I just said, I wound up saying yes, and it was amazing. We went to places that you love going to in the winter, like
cool places,
like Finland and Russia. Very cool places, cold places.
Sorry, I had to.
No, it was good. That was kind of like volleyball there.
Well, you obviously play with so many people. Didn't you get your start in Bicycle Thief? Because I was a big Thelonious Monster fan. Obviously, it's all connected. Like in the beginning, when the Chili Peppers were around, before you were playing with them, it was like them and Fishbone and Jane's Addiction, who we just mentioned, and there was Thelonious Monster, and then there was Bicycle Thief, which was Bob Forrest's band after. And I mean, I think you were really young, but I know I saw the Bicycle Thief back in the day. How did you get involved with that? Was that like your first band?
Pretty much, yeah. I was 17 when I met Bob. My dear friend, one of my best friends, Brian's sister, was dating Bob for years, Max Smith, and she would speak of this kid around the corner who was playing guitar in his bedroom, dropped out of high school. And at the time, though, I was barely a guitar player. I just stopped playing drums, and I was teaching myself guitar. But
you started on drums.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I was really new to the guitar when I started playing with Bob, but I faked it well enough. And it's crazy to think back. Bob was less than a year sober. I mean, he was just getting back to music, but he was, it's not like it was that long before.
And he was, I mean, I assume you've seen the documentary on him.
I scored it.
You scored it?
Yeah.
Oh, then I assume you've seen it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a pretty intense. And of course, a lot of people might know him from Celebrity Rehab or whatever. I mean, he came back from the brink in a way that most people don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't around then. I didn't know him then, but I mean, he was less than a year, like I say. So I'm, now with the amount of time that's gone by and just sort of being older and more aware, you kind of realize how precarious it was back then. And, I was just some little cigarette smoking 17-year-old who was happy to be doing something productive over the hill.
How did you, Over the Hill, that's a reference to the Valley.
Yeah. We
call it Over the Hill. If you grew up in the San Fernando Valley and you go out to Hollywood, it's going over the hill. We're both from the Valley, you and me. We grew up probably about 1 or 2 miles away from each other. What was your first experience like venturing out into Over the Hill? Like from the 818, if it was even called that then, to the 213. Those are area codes, by the way. I'm nerding out with area codes right now.
Well, I think back when, at the period, the specific period, we're thinking, I don't know if 323 existed yet. It was right before it, I think, because I still have my old telephone book and Aaron's records and all that stuff is all, that's all 213 numbers. Mm-hmm. But
old school.
When I was 16, my first summer driving, I was an intern at the management office, a management office here in town, and they managed Tool, they managed a couple other bands, but they managed my favorite LA band at the time, the Geraldine Fibbers.
Oh, they were great. They were not a spin-off, but it was
Ethel Meat
Plow. Carla from Ethel Meat Plow's other band. Yeah, they were great.
Amazing. Yeah,
I was obsessed with them. Didn't they reunite recently?
They reissued their first record, and I think it included a new song.
I haven't thought about them in a while. They were
they're the greatest band.
Yeah,
that
they were poised to be.
Of.
I mean, there was hype that they were going to be really big. I think they were a little too early.
They're incredible. Yeah, you can throw on their records now, and it's timeless.
So you were working for them?
Well, I was working for their manager for a summer, and that was my first time over the hill. I mean, I had the friend who I had met out in the Valley who got me that job. He and I were playing music. And so the first music I played before Bob, it was never public, but I played with Shepherd from the Pygmy Love Circus.
Pygmy Love Circus. Now, am I confusing them with Electric Love Hogs? I am.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think Electric Love Hogs turned into Orgy. Pygmy Love Circus. There were a lot of bands then that had 3 words in their name.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, the hair metal stuff was ending. And actually, a lot of bands were taking their cues from the Chili Peppers, actually, and and definitely Jane's Addiction. And they were getting more into this, like, kind of funky rock. And Pygmy Love Circus were definitely part of that.
I don't know. I'm not sure. They were, I didn't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
They were more just kind of rocking. I only listened to them retroactively because
it was a transitional period in LA.
Yeah, right. And I think they went into the early 90s, and then they've kind of done stuff recently.
Oh, they're still around?
Once in a while, I think. But that was my first thing, music playing. I did it even before I was 16, so before I could drive. Little me.
This is them. Yeah.
There you go.
I stand by my...
So this is little 15-year-old me playing drums like this.
Is you on this?
No.
Oh, okay.
But this is, we were.
Actually sounds real current.
Yeah, we didn't sound a million miles from this, but it was basically just a garage band. But it was Shep and our friend Tyrone and myself. It was a very disparate looking band, ages 15, 22 or 23, and however old Shep was, probably a little younger than I am now, maybe like 36.
It sounds like you were always like the young guy in the band, like the young up and coming, always throughout your career.
Always.
That must have trained you well for, when you're thrown in with people like Bob or whoever, where you're like the young pipsqueak or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to prove yourself. You got to prove, that you're worthy of playing with the big boys.
Yeah. You learn how to stay, quiet in the corner. Rear your head once in a while if you have to. No, I don't know. Yeah, I was answering some questions for something recently, and I was typing that out, and it came up with that answer that maybe I learned how to succeed with all these people because I learned early on how to shut up and just kind of let people be themselves and learn from them and never assert yourself in an obnoxious and egocentric way. Well,
not in an obnoxious and egocentric way, but you do have to assert yourself somewhat. If there's people maybe doubting that you're ready, you're the young guy, you're the new guy, you gotta. Well, I guess you let your musicianship do the talking, but you gotta prove yourself.
Oh yeah. So you just do what you're there to do. Yeah, I guess if someone tried to, if someone forbid me from coming again, I would assert myself. But.
Well, what you play with obviously so many people, but what do you get out of doing Plural One as a solo act, as the guy in charge?
Yeah, well, I mean, as of now, I've just been in charge of myself and when to turn up at the studio, which I rarely do a good job at. But yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing about this record, because I very luckily have this relationship with Andrew over at ORG, which is the label that puts out the record, and he'll just put out my records for me. And
it's convenient.
And when I was playing with the Chili Peppers, it would just it would exist, and the few people who cared would go find it, and that would be it. Now that I'm not playing with those guys anymore, and it's so fortuitous that this record exists, and I can stand behind it. It's because if I had been dismissed from the Chili Peppers and then went and made a record the next week, it probably would have had a strange energy to it. That would be sort of kind of impacted by what had just happened. So luckily this exists, and it's funny that it's the one that I'm standing and behind, and this is my solo quote unquote record. But I'm just so thankful that I made it.
As am I. But I guess that's interesting that you bring that up with the timing. Is that I assumed, or maybe other people assumed, that maybe you saw some kind of writing on the wall or something, so you were like, I'm going to focus on my solo stuff because I might not have this other band going on. Like, was there anything that you maybe was the timing just a coincidence, or was there something where you're like, I'm gonna have something else going on just in case?
It was kind of a coincidence, I guess. Just as I said earlier, it's hard for me to sit still, so I'm always doing something. In the past it was with a band, and then this time around it was just sort of on my own, so it was seemingly solo. But my focus was always the band, and whenever the band was working, that's what I was doing. But I guess it's hard to say. I never saw this coming. What wound up happening with John coming back. But I guess it's just yeah. I mean, I guess it just speaks to never wanting to stop writing and working, like you said, writing on the wall. I mean, I just writing songs and singing them and being the person who's responsible for the reaction from people and whether it affects them or not is something that I've had the ability to do, and then I retreat from, because then I go back into the band, or I'm sort of on the side. Yeah, I mean, I guess just always trying to work on that and do it more and kind of be more comfortable in that role is something that I was just always doing. So whether I can't say I saw it, but I'm glad that I kept doing it.
Well, I don't know if you know this. Do you know that Chad Smith used to co-host this show? He was my co-host.
Oh no, but once I walked in here, I felt like I'd
You
been
felt
here
his
before.
presence?
Well, yeah. I mean, I always feel Chad's presence, but I felt like I think I've seen you two.
Yeah. He
you
came
know.
here recently. He didn't. We didn't discuss.
Oh, was
you.
it here where
he was here talking about Ozzy?
lip buttoned and
Oh,
wasn't allowed? Yeah. Then I saw a clip of that.
Yeah,
somewhere.
he didn't really talk about that. We actually we talked mostly just about Ozzy because obviously he's got that going on. But I'm curious because he co-hosted the show with me for about a year, a little less than a year, and he actually left because you guys, the Chili Peppers, were starting to work on the album, and then I know it got sort of paused because of the Woolsey fires.
Yeah.
But so I'm curious. I hope you don't. I know you've talked about it in Rolling Stone and stuff. But what became of the stuff that? Because I don't think you got further than writing. But he was saying like you went to. I like to envision it that was sort of this like monkey style house that you all lived in bunk beds. But like this house that you had in Calabasas or Agora or somewhere like that, and you were writing or working. Like, did anything come of that we might get to hear?
I don't think that you'll get to hear, sadly. But many things were written and we did go into a studio and do a little demoing. So the songs exist, or the beginnings of them exist more or less. But I think only a select few will enjoy them if they want to. But I mean, they don't even have vocals on them. But
Okay.
I was lucky enough to hear what Anthony was working on, and I know what they would have sounded like. So. I guess they're there. They're doing whatever they're supposed to do in the world for now.
Yeah, I know you've talked about it before, so I hope you don't mind me asking you questions about it, because it seems like you guys are all on good terms. I know you and Chad were close, and like I said, I tried to get him to talk about it on the show, and it seems like the band is letting you tell the story. They haven't said anything, but you've done some interviews, like Rolling Stone. You did Mark Maron, I saw. So, it seems like it was on good terms, but can you take me back to what it exactly happened? Like, because it seems like you were slightly surprised by it. The world was surprised by it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, I mean, it's funny because my nature isn't to talk publicly about anything really, but like I have this record that I think it would be a disservice to not seize this moment that seems like, I don't know how big a snowball, but it's, with the Chili Peppers and now this Pearl Jam tour and the opening slot there. And just having the record in general, which, like I said earlier, I would normally not really speak about. It would just exist on the shelf and then probably get sent back to the distributor.
Oh.
But I was surprised that when I heard, but then in the big picture, not surprised, just because a few times in the last couple of years, I'd hear about John reaching out to this person, or Flea and John having gotten together. Yeah, I didn't know they had been jamming and reconnecting musically, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, but it's like it's a funny position to be in, because they have such a magical thing, the four of them, and with John and Flea and John in particular, and the way those two instruments communicate, and they created that with each other in the past. When I was going to summer camp in Chatsworth, and the fact. So the minute I was told that John was coming back, and I just sort of sat there and I was just hit.
And it was all of them telling you? It was like a meeting?
It was just a meeting, but it was just the four of us. But Flea's the one who said it. And then I was hit with this wave of, because it's such a big deal and it's such a shift in your life, you can reflect on it, and you can even do it on the live radio. But I was just sort of grateful for all these incredible experiences I've had with them for the last 10 years, of playing the Pyramids or playing, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony next to Slash, and then having Billy Joe climb on top of me. The fact that I was a part of something that those guys created back in high school, and that grew into the incredible music they made with John and with Chad later on, that speaks to people in the farthest corners of the globe. the fact that I was brought into that club, there, that the world worked out where there was a space for me or a doorway to walk through and become that part of that. And for as long as I was, I couldn't feel anything but grateful for that. There was no, just I suppose I could have led a life or being the kind of person that in that moment when I was told that bit of news, I could have been, filled with rage and anger, but naturally, and who I guess I am, it was the opposite. I was just filled with gratitude and just love for them and the fact that I was, allowed to be a part of it at all. Of course, I will miss playing with them, and I love those guys, and I still do love those guys, and I don't think the friendships have changed at all.
Yeah, you're still friends with them and hanging out with them or texting with them. And
yeah, I've seen all of them since, we had a little conference at the Laker game the other night. It's just an emotional evening.
Oh, wait, you were at the one on Friday?
Yeah.
The one that Flea wore, like the full-on, like Slauson swap meet outfit?
Yeah.
How was, to go off on what was that like being there?
It was crazy. It was emotional. It was very well done, though. I thought the Lakers did a really good job, harnessing all the emotion and turning it into a beautiful and succinct tribute to him, to where after the tribute and after after LeBron spoke, the only thing that felt right to do was play a game, which that's what I was surprised about, and I thought perhaps if they had done it on Tuesday, that the game would have seemed a little meaningless. But with a couple more days and with what LeBron said and just the energy in the room, that's what needed to happen. Some basketball. Sadly, the Lakers didn't win, but it was amazing to watch Damian Lillard do what he did.
Didn't you and Chad do a basketball song once, but like overseas?
No, it was hockey.
Oh, it was hockey. I don't know sports.
No,
basketball, hockey.
Yeah,
I saw him tweet something. It was like you did like a special song for like a hockey. I guess it was hockey team overseas or something.
Overseas, yeah, in Finland, the team. Jokerit, which is the Jokers. They have an amazing logo, and we met when we were doing press for one of the records. We met a guy named Pasi from Finland, and he we both kept up with him, and he reached out and said, "Would you like to do this?" And we went into a studio and we knocked out 4 pieces of music really, really, really quickly, and we just emailed them over. And in today's day and age, I think they were played at the arena, the next day or 2 days later or something. And I think they became something of a theme song for that team season.
Do you think there's a possibility that you and Chad or any of the Chili Peppers for that matter might do
more sports themes?
More sports themes, or maybe not under the umbrella of the Chili Peppers name, but some kind of collaborations here or there. I mean, like playing on each other's records, them doing stuff on your records, you and Chad doing sports stuff. Like, do you think that door is still open?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even the day that that we had this meeting back in December, I mean, Flea mentioned he plays on a song on this record, and he's on a song that's coming out on a 7-inch single soon. I mean, I think that door is completely open. Chad and I made a covers 7-inch single last year.
Yeah, that's right.
T-Rex songs.
Very cool.
And I kept wanting to do one every year. So hopefully we find
a T-Rex song every year?
No, different covers.
Okay, what would be the next one?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I have an idea, but I don't know if I'm not sure.
Weird question, but was there ever the possibility, given that you are on such good terms with the band, with the Chili Peppers, and that you brought a lot to the band, you're one of the members who got inducted into the Hall of Fame with them, but John obviously has his history. Was there ever a possibility of it being a 5-piece situation? I know that would be weird because the Chili Peppers have never been, but was there ever a talk about somehow having, because you and John have history, you've played in bands together, you are friends as well.
Yeah, I was going to make some joke about socks coming in pairs, but
that's a good joke, actually.
I would say that's a question for those guys. I don't know, since I didn't see this coming and I didn't really have it.
But that was never discussed or anything.
Well, I didn't have a vote in this, so I mean, obviously. That's for them. I mean, I think the band, not to say that there wouldn't be nice things created in that situation, but I think the band has always had this great sort of equal split of the instrumentation, and this guy does that and this guy does that, and it's very balanced and sort of I'd be nervous that wouldn't be the case.
I understand. One thing I want to ask you before we go to break is, obviously it seems like it's all good vibes all around, no bitterness whatsoever. How have the fans reacted to this? Like, I don't think you have too much of a social media presence, but obviously there are fans that would be excited to see John come back. But there are fans that have loyalty to you as well. You've been in the band for a long time. What's been the reaction online? Has it been kind?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't look myself. I learned that lesson. I mean, I've never been a big fan of that stuff, social media stuff. But when I joined the band, I learned very quickly and made a rule for myself that you can't look. And even when I put out this record, this Plural One record, I was looking around one night, and you see 10 wonderful, supportive things, and then you see one person say something, and you just, I thinking about it today, and it was like 2 months ago. But
I'm sorry.
But no, I mean, everyone's going to have their opinion, and they should. It'd be amazing if everybody liked everything, but they don't know. I don't know if that's the way it works. But yeah, I mean, I've heard little bits from people that there's loads of amazing support out there, and just people saying nice things. I'm sure there's lots of people that only got to see me play with the band, being there for 10 years, some younger people or some people that live in different parts of the world, yeah. So yeah, there's been lots of support. I can't tell you exactly what people have said, because I haven't read things myself, but I've been told that people are saying nice things.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, I've been enjoying saying nice things with you. Please stick around. We'll talk more with Josh Klinghoffer after the break.
Stay tuned. There's much more with Lyndsey Parker, live from the City of Angels on Volume West, SiriusXM 106.
Welcome back to Volume S. We're sitting here with Josh Klinghoffer, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and one of the few people who can say he's played the Super Bowl. Did you watch the Super Bowl this past Sunday, the halftime?
I did.
You enjoy it with J-Lo and Shakira?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I thought it, whatever. It's fine.
Well, there's a reason why I'm bringing it up, besides the fact that you obviously played there with Bruno Mars a few years ago, is what I recall. And I brought this up yesterday. We were doing a post-mortem Super Bowl halftime special yesterday. And there were these angry old man yells at cloud type people who were mad that Shakira and J-Lo lip synced. And I was trying to explain to them that with the logistics, and I've talked with Chad about this on the show.
There were people that were mad? That were
super mad, yelling at me. We hung up yelling. They called in and then were yelling as if it was my idea to have them. But I was trying to explain to them in a calm way about the logistics of doing such a huge event.
Yeah. With
the weather, the live stuff, and all of that.
That stuff is far beyond their grasp.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to be if you go see, where I'm going with this.
Yeah, we can't. I learn more and more every day. We can't try and reach these people.
But I've talked about this with Chad, because the Chili Peppers got some shit when they played.
Just kidding.
When they played, and he talked a bit about the fact that you can't run the risk of an amp not working or a string being out too.
Yeah, nor can you play the song with the same aggressive and live energy after the 35th rehearsal. And that our particular year, it was that it was the cold weather Super Bowl. So we were out there in the cold. Stuff wasn't really in tune. Oh, this is serious.
You swear.
Yeah. It was just I can't remember if I heard. Obviously it was after the broadcast when those brilliant sleuths saw that we weren't plugged in, and they made noise about it. But our live quote unquote performance was actually so live because we pre-taped it, which you just have to. And in a thing like that, they've learned their lesson. I think they used to do it live, and there was always something would go wrong. And they've just they've got it down to such a science, and it's such big business, and it's being broadcast all over the world. So they just do the best job they can to make it all run smoothly. But our live performance was actually recorded here in LA by Brendan O'Brien, who was the engineer of the original track, the original Give It Away, back in 91. And we just kind of rolled in. I think, we jumped up on stage. I didn't even know if we were doing one or rehearsing one, but we did it once. And I think that's the one we used. If not, we may have done it another time just in case things went, just for safety. But that's it. We went to the studio. We knocked out 2 versions, incredibly live, very fun, jumping around the same way we would when we do it on stage, and that was it. And it was recorded by Brendan, and it sounds live, and it has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I wonder these people who make that they just don't understand.
Yeah. So a couple of people were calling in and actually really genuinely irate. I thought if they were going to get irate at all about the Super Bowl, there's been some stupid outrage about how women were how Shakira and J-Lo were dressed.
I read something this morning.
So dumb. There's been a lot of on a lesser degree outrage about some of the political stuff that was said or whatever. Everyone gets mad about something, but the people that were specifically calling into the show were mad about the lip syncing and saying, one person was like, J-Lo just should have danced, and I'm like, dance to her songs with just dance to her songs, like that would have been weird. But I specifically brought up your situation, that I was like, the Chili Pepper situation. I was like, look, these guys can play.
Our vocals weren't pre-recorded though.
Anthony's were?
No.
Oh.
And nor was Bruno's, I'm pretty sure, but Anthony's wasn't. No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because
interesting.
Yeah, so it was just the backing track.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess there's arguments for both sides. But I just was like, I can only imagine the stress, you could tell me, about being in part of such a big machine. It's the biggest, most watched thing.
Oh, yeah. And I admit, I was, because we were there as Bruno's guest, and when it was originally proposed to us, I think I was even being a snotty little purist, like, I don't want to do it. It's not our show. Or it wound up being the most fun, easy thing, and I think Bruno did an amazing job, but we had no stress. We just turned up and rocked, and whether we played or not, we were playing. Chad was hitting those drums. I was playing the song. You just didn't hear what we were doing. And also, I'll remind you, it was the 40th time we probably did it. It was so many rehearsals and so many blocking, and especially that night because of how big Bruno's band were, or how big Bruno's band is. I was so petrified that we were gonna, I was gonna clip someone with my guitar or something, or it was we did it. And it came off without injury. But it wound up being so much fun, and just being there and my whole family's from New York, so I remember when I heard the Super Bowl was going to be there, and it was going to be a cold weather Super Bowl. I was with some friends a couple years prior. We were all excited about it, and then we wound up playing there. It was a weird day, though. I do remember the night before the Chili Peppers played at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and we'd been off for a while. We hadn't been doing that much live playing, and I thought the show was fun, but it was a little sloppy, and I did remember getting mad at some mistake and smashing my hand on my guitar a little too hard, and I broke my hand.
The night before the Super Bowl?
The night before the Super Bowl.
Wait. The night before the Super Bowl, you broke your hand?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing a bandage or a splint or anything on it, or cast.
Well, luckily we didn't play live, so
it all worked out.
But
did you have anything on your hand?
No, I didn't know it was broken yet, because that show was on the Saturday night, and then I went back to the hotel trying to go to sleep, and it was that thing where your body's in shock and it's throbbing and throbbing. I felt like I was on something, and I couldn't go to sleep, and it was all of a sudden it was 5, 6 in the morning, almost 7 in the morning, and I think I finally fell asleep, but I woke up an hour after falling asleep, called the tour manager, said my hand is the size of my foot. I gotta see someone. So while I was waiting for the doctor, we learned that Philip Seymour Hoffman died.
This is not a good day.
It was a harsh day. You know,
Were you did you know him, or were you just a fan?
I didn't know him at all, but I thought he was amazing, and I felt like, just to lose someone that way, and I think it's clear when you watch him do what he did, what kind of person he was.
Well, since you bring that up, I don't mean to get into like a death thing, but this just stood up to me because when I was doing research for this interview, and I believe it was the interview you did with Rolling Stone, you were talking about how you sort of had this dream or whatever to have the Red Hot Chili Peppers return to a bit of their early sound, and it made me think of Andy Gill, who produced, the first Chili Peppers record long before your time. But like, were you a fan of Andy Gill and Gang of Four and his guitar playing? Was that an influence on your guitar playing?
Yeah, totally.
I was so bummed.
Yeah, I remember there was a period in
because he produced the first record.
Yeah, and there was a period in maybe the early 2000s in East Hall, in Silver Lake and Echo Park, where I feel like that was everyone's favorite band. Every time you went to the Echo or Spaceland or something, you saw
every band sounded like Gang of Four then.
Every band. But yeah, I know. That was really sad. I mean, this whole year so far. Someone texted me today something about this year feeling like a decade already.
January's been a long month. Luckily, we're in February now. We need to take another break, but as we're going to break, we're going to play. This is exciting. Another exclusive. It's going to be a snippet of a new Plural One song that isn't out. This isn't on the album. The album To Be One With You that's out now. This is a song called "You Don't Know What We're Doing." You're doing. Sorry. When is this going to come out?
Well, it is out. I think this one is one of the ones that you got if you signed up for the bundle, and you got the bonus 7-inch.
Sign up for that, people.
Yeah,
they're going to want to sign up for it after they hear a bit of this.
I know, and I don't know if they can anymore. They might be all gone. But yeah, if there's a run on the store, we'll make more.
All right, we're going to play a little bit of that, and we'll come back with Josh Klinghoffer. Welcome back. We are here with Josh Klinghoffer of Plural One. Also, you may know him from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Sparks, Beck's band, PJ Harvey's band, Bicycle Thief. You get around, but now you're doing your own thing. And we played a little bit of one of your songs here, and you have a beautiful voice. And I've been trying to place what it is, and I can't quite place what it reminds me of. But I know
a toddler with marbles in their mouth.
Not that. That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say I know that some of the times that you played with the Chili Peppers, you always got like a solo moment where you got to sing. A lot of times you did Elliott Smith songs.
I did too. Yeah.
You did. Did you do Angelus?
I did Angelus in Finland. No, in Latvia.
You should have done the hockey song in Finland.
Yeah, right. That's true. And I did Angelus in Latvia, and I did the song Twilight here in Los Angeles.
How was Elliott a big influence on you? He's a big Elliott figure, and I'm still not over him being gone. He's the best.
He's one of my absolute favorites. Sometimes I've had to stop listening to him because I can't pick up a guitar without doing something that sounds like him. I love.
So he was a big influence on your playing as well.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, just his songwriting and his lyric writing and everything about him. Yeah, it's incredible.
Did you ever get to meet him or play with him or anything?
I didn't get to play with him, and I met him once in a sort of shake hands kind of. Wait, let me. I don't know. Actually, now that I think of it, it's possible that our paths crossed at Largo on the Largo stage. There was a period in the early 2000s where I was hanging out with John Bryan a bit, and
cool.
I would go to Largo every week or as much as I could, and try and make myself available, and sometimes get called up on stage. And it's possible that I played drums one time behind Elliott, but a good friend of mine was playing in his touring band at the time, and I met him very briefly backstage at a show on the Figure 8 tour.
He sang at a karaoke birthday party for me once, because I don't claim to know him. I wish I had known him, but Steve McDonald and Anna Warnaker, his wife, came to a karaoke birthday party after Elliott had played the Troubadour. It was a party I was having, and they brought him along, and he sang Wild Horses at the Brass Monkey.
Oh my God.
And I'm so mad that this
I was probably
before
at the Troubadour show.
Yeah, you should have come and done Wild Horses, but this is before cell phones. I'm going to say it's like 2002. No, it must have been the 90s, actually. It must have been the 90s. And so don't have any footage of that, but I swear it happened, and it was pretty awesome. What else was, in terms of your playing and your vocal stylings, which is very different from the, obviously the band that you're known for. It's your own thing. Like, what else influences you? I hear the Elliott influence.
Yeah, Elliott. Let's see. I don't know. I've been. I think I've been a big Radiohead fan for a long time. I grew up a big Pearl Jam fan. It's funny that those two bands are these bands with longevity who have sort of shaped the world around them as much as they have. I love 80s music. I love Depeche Mode, and I love the Smiths. I grew up, my two favorite bands, probably my first favorite bands are the Beatles and the Beach Boys from age 5.
I hear all of that stuff. So if you grew up a big Pearl Jam fan, it must be very exciting for you to get to open with them and open as you're, doing your own stuff as your own thing.
You don't even know.
Well, tell me. I don't know, so tell me.
Yeah, I know.
You must be I can tell how excited you are.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's I after this happened with the Chili Peppers, I was looking at an entirely blank calendar, which I haven't had really since I was in my teens. And, it was exciting, it was scary, and I was probably, I started making plans and, trying to figure out how to spend my time. And then I got asked to go out with those guys and open and let this record have a bit of a life. And yeah, I think, 2 or 3 months into my solo odyssey, just being in my workspace on my own, writing new songs or, whatever it is, I probably would have gotten a little like, what am I doing? I could see myself getting a little rudderless. And this has been the most incredible example of, door opening, door closing, door opening, these things happening. I'm not going to begin to wonder why, but I couldn't be more grateful.
So when does that tour start, the Gigaton tour?
It starts in March 18th, I think, in Toronto.
So your mindset in general now, because I think probably you seem happy, everything seems cool with your former bandmates, you have a calendar ahead of cool stuff to do, but I think there's probably people who would automatically assume, especially if you were not expecting this, that you're bummed out or depressed or feeling low, but I don't get that vibe from you at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, being in the Chili Peppers for as long as I was, I mean, you're afforded a lot of, luxuries, and one of them is to be able to have time to write songs and then some resources to record them. And, that's really all that's important to me. And I have the luxury to really be the kind of person that can say that's all that's important to me. And, it's not like that stops or that goes away. The only thing that you could be sad for are those songs that the Chili Peppers wrote that'll never get heard. But I mean, they're going to do great stuff. What
were they like? Were they different? Because I hope you don't mind me mentioning this. When I read the Rolling Stone interview, you actually said, and I was surprised by this, that the 2 albums you did with the Chili Peppers, you weren't. Am I right that you weren't 100% happy with? Or?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm bratty and I like to complain, but I think you kind of have this. I don't know where it came from, but I sort of had this ridiculous notion that I was joining the band and I would have this, I would have the ability to, put a stamp on it in this way that I had complete control over, which is ridiculous. You're joining a thing that's been around forever and has an identity. And I think just immaturely and selfishly, when things didn't turn out the way I wanted them to, I said I didn't like them. But I have great love for all those songs, or most of those songs on those 2 records. And there was tons of songs that didn't make the records that I also love. And it's little nitpicky things like the way certain things sound, or the ideas I had about how to record the guitars, and then doing it the complete opposite way, and just you move with the punches,
it's a daunting experience. I mean, friggin' Dave Navarro, a man who was very well known for a huge band, when he stepped into John Frusciante's place, like, it was a struggle for him. I mean, he was on the show with me and Chad once, and it's just like, it must be, is there any, how should I put this in a way? Is there any relief that you no longer have to deal with that? Because there's always fans who are like, oh, I preferred this lineup. Even when John came in, there were people, I liked the lineup before. It's like, is there any part of you, it's like, oh, cool, now I can just do my own thing?
Well, I mean, I guess the only relief I could speak to is the not being ridiculed for not being John Frusciante anymore.
Oh,
but no, I mean, Flea asked me the same thing when we had lunch a couple of days later. He asked if I was relieved at all, and I mean, I can't say I'm relieved. I love those guys. I love playing music with them. At the end of the day, it's still a very rare experience to play in a band that has that much, that much influence or that many ears on them, and that reach that many people and have the ability to touch as many hearts. So, that's something that I'll for sure miss. And and relief.
Maybe that's not the right word.
What, relief? I mean,
Yeah.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say relief. I definitely found things to complain about my whole time in the band, but it's usually things just born out of, wanting to play more, or, wanting to work on more, different sounding songs, or, stuff like that. I mean, yeah.
Well, tell me about we're running out of time soon, but one of the songs that we're going to hear as we close out the show is a song called Obscene. It's another song that isn't on the album, but is this another one of the songs that's like on the bundle or like a bonus?
No, this is an older song. This was a song.
Oh, okay.
This was a song that was written the night, before we started working with Brian Burton, Danger Mouse Brian, who's been a good friend of mine for a long time. We spoke on the phone, and he said, just come in, write a couple songs, and show them to me next week or whatever when we start. And I think I wrote 3 things that night, and this was one of them, this song which wound up being called Obscene. And when I write songs, sometimes I can't help but write the whole thing, which I think that isn't the best way to do it in a band or a collaborative thing where you want everyone else to pitch in. And this song in particular has a very intricate arrangement, and the parts go this many times and this many times, and there's no two way about it.
And it became a Plural One song.
Yeah,
it all worked out.
Yeah.
Well, we have run out of time. Thank you, Josh, so much for your candor, and it was awesome to talk about the 818 or whatever area code it was back then with you. We are going to close out now with
it's still the 818.
It's now the 818. We're going to close out a bit with Obscene, and I'll be back tomorrow with Juliana Hatfield. Thanks, everyone, for listening.